Hey everybody, it's Emma. Thank you very much for joining me in this video today. I need to put some makeup on my face, so that's what we're going to do. I already have my face primed, my eyes primed, my eyebrows on. If they look a little crazy, don't mind it. I've gotten really lazy with them since I have bangs now that cover them up. I am less kind of finicky about making them look good. Anyway, I am going to use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette. I have been using this a lot in my real life, and I've actually filmed like 5 videos using this palette, and only one of them has actually made it onto my channel. So at first I was like, I gotta use a different palette, but I really haven't actually shown a lot of this on my channel. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, so I want to use some of the kind of warmer orangey, peachy, golden tones in this palette. So I'm actually going to go into Roxy first, which is a really nice peach. I have the Real Techniques shading brush. I'm honestly, as usual, not sure exactly what I'm going to do, but I know I want to use those kinds of colors. So I'm going to bring this all along my crease. I'm actually considering placing this on my lid. I'm not sure. So I'm just gonna kind of spread that on very messily with that shading brush, and then use an e.l.f. crease brush to blend the edges a little bit. And I think I've mentioned in the couple other videos I've made using this palette, I have not had any problems with this palette. That's not to say that people didn't. I am certainly not trying to say that people who have not liked this palette or have had problems with the shades are bad at makeup or anything. I'm certainly not great at makeup. But I do have a more recent palette, and I have heard some rumors that the newer palettes are pressed a little differently. So if you've been eyeing this palette but have been nervous because of all of the horror stories with it, you might be okay. You can always return it if you get it from Ulta or Sephora. I think you can return it if you get it from Anastasia also, but you know, if you get it from Ulta or Sephora, you're also getting points and stuff, so there you go. I'm going to try something. I haven't tried this yet. I'm going to take Cube and start working that over my lid. I've only ever really used this on my inner corner, so I'm not sure. I think that'll work out just fine, actually. I find the shimmer shades in this palette become better and better the more you kind of work with them on your lid. And I also find brushes to be better for them versus a finger. I don't hate that. I was not sure that was gonna work. All right, I'm gonna go into All Star, which is that kind of berry shade. Get on the shading brush. Just gonna lightly tap into that, and I'm gonna bring that to the outer corner. Kind of stamping rather than swiping, at first anyway. And then using the crease brush to blend that in a little bit. I love when stuff works out, especially if I don't really know what I'm doing. Okay, although that's usually how it's going. So I'm gonna line my upper lash line. I'm using this Too Faced Perfect Eyes liner in black. Perfect black. Excuse me. I'm going to try to snuggle this liner through the lash line. I might have to come back to you though. Alright, for my foundation, I'm going to try a new mix. I'm going to use a little bit of my Kat Von D Lock-It Tattoo Foundation and some of the Ordinary Serum Foundation. So I have the Lock-It Foundation in Light 44. It's a little bit too dark. When I was in Sephora recently, I noticed that the Light 43, I think, was maybe a little bit better. I don't know if I'm going to buy that yet. I really like the foundation, and I would like one that matches my skin a little bit more. The Ordinary foundation I have is in 1.1N, so that'll kind of take down the darkness and also kind of tone down the foundation a little bit. The Lock-It foundation is very, very full coverage, but it is also one of my favorites on how it looks on my skin anyway. I find that it looks really smooth and it blends into my skin really well. It just isn't the right color. So I might end up picking that up at some point. So I'm just gonna start working that. Use my Real Techniques sponge. Start really blending that in. I haven't really been putting foundation on my forehead since I have thick bangs now. Kind of cover my forehead up, so probably not going to worry too much about that. I'm liking how this mix looks though. I'm going to use my Wet n Wild PhotoFocus primer. Concealer is the word I was looking for. I have this in the shade Light Ivory. Use my finger to blend that in. I'm going to set all that with the NYX No Filter powder. I'm going to set under my eyes with the Real Techniques setting brush. You can obviously use the same brush for everything, but I'm going to use two because I have them. This just fits so nicely under my eyes. I tend to tap and then very lightly sweep. And then I have the e.l.f. Complexion brush to set the rest of my face. Because that is a fuller coverage look I got going on, I'm going to use a little bit of bronzer. This is from the Wet n Wild limited edition Color Icon Trio in Sunset Junction. I'm using an e.l.f. blush brush. I could have saved it, but I didn't bother. My Real Techniques blush brush, which is what I was using for bronzer for a very long time. The brush part fell out of the ferrule, and I could have glued it back in, but I didn't. So, using the blush brush. Really liking how this eye look turned out. I'm really impressed with Cube. And I wonder if it's just a different formula, because even people who liked the palette initially when it first launched, Cube was not, I think it got an F on Temptalia. And, you know, I pretty much agree with Temptalia. I mean, obviously, nobody's going to agree on everything. But I'm surprised that the shadow is as nice as it is on my lid. I'm bringing a little bit of that down my neck also. I sent the thing to renew my passport yesterday. Oh my god, and the picture is so bad. I'm a little upset that I have to look like that in my passport for the next 10 years. I'm more upset at the thought that that's what I really look like. Oh, so funny. As soon as I'm like, yep, you know what, I feel good about myself. I feel comfortable in my skin. The universe gives me just a little bit more practice. So because it's next to me, I'm going to use this Milani Infinite Liquid Eyeliner. I have talked about this in my September Faves, Mez, and Fails. I'm going to put some of this on my hand. The actual formula is pretty nice, although it seems very similar to the Wet n Wild Waterproof. So save yourself the money and just get that. It would be my suggestion, but the brush really sucks. So I'm going to use a Real Techniques Fine Liner Brush. And then I'm going to say close enough and step away. For mascara, I'm using my Lash Princess from Essence. This is the Sculpted volume in the purple tube. I love this mascara. But I am noticing that the formula gets kind of thicker and thicker. So I really have to be careful and wipe the brush off before I put it near my face. For blush, I'm going to go back into the Sunset Junction palette. Just a nice, pretty, kind of cool pink blush. It's got a sheen to it. So it looks very natural. This formula of highlighter, bronzer, and blush is the best I think Wet n Wild has ever put out. And I wish they would make their regular lines the same formula. It's so creamy. It's pigmented without being too pigmented. I find the Wet n Wild blushes, as beautiful as they are, especially for like the $3 price tag, they can be a little bit much, a little bit tricky to work with because they are very pigmented right off the bat. And then I'll just dip right back into the highlighter in that palette. I'm going to use this NYX Gold Liner. This is just the retractable eyeliner. I'm going to bring this to the lower waterline. Again, attempting to do this one-handed. Yay! And then also working that into the lash line. These don't necessarily last fantastic in the waterline, although they do last really well on, you know, skin. But I find the gold is just a nice, it's something a little different than a flesh toned or a black liner. Since I have blue eyes, it kind of makes that pop a little bit more. So I'm going to take that Adorn shade, which is a little bit kind of coppery, and work that along the lower lash line. So we're going to pretend that this cowlick isn't happening. I'm going to finish off this look using this little sample of the Tartiest lip paint in Birthday Suit. Something very nice and neutral and nude. And actually, I don't hate this formula. I'm not a big matte liquid lipstick gal. This is quite comfortable. Smells like floss. So there we have the finished look. I'm gonna need a little trim shortly. Let me know what you thought of this video, if you enjoyed it, if you have any requests or questions or anything like that. And thank you very much for spending time with me and hanging out, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!